Justin Steele, Nico Hoerner, they keep popping up in the news as potential targets for the Cubs at the trade deadline. Should the Cubs deal them? We're going to take a look at that right now. All right, Cubs fans, here's the deal. I'm giving away my Nico Hoerner signed baseball guaranteed on this video. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. I'm doing this now because, unfortunately, I'm a believer that Nico Hoerner is not going to be on this team anymore come July 30th. It's unfortunate to say because I'm a huge Nico Hoerner fan, but with the way that things are going right now, it seems like right now is the time if you're going to trade Nico Hoerner to do it. So here's how you're going to win this ball. All you have to do, comment below with if you think the Cubs should trade or keep Justin Steele and Nico Hoerner, and give me a good reason why. Sell me. If you do that, plus you're subscribed to our list, which is at setupman.net. Link just popped up for you right there. All you have to do is go to setupman.net, scroll down to the bottom, and it'll pop up, and all you have to do is subscribe to our list. The person who puts the best reasoning to why you should either keep or trade Nico Hoerner and Justin Steele and is subscribed to our list, I'm going to give you my autographed Nico Hoerner baseball. All right, let's get into it, and let's start with Justin Steele. First of all, reasons to trade Justin Steele. First of all, he has massive value. Right now, team control through 2027. He's only making $4 million this year. So if a team is going to get Justin Steele, they're going to get great team control through 2027, plus a playoff contending pitcher right now. That's huge value. Garrett Crochet, some of those guys out there that are on the trading block, Tarek Skubal, yeah, they might have a little bit more value, but this is still massive value in a thin starting pitching market. So you can likely assume that he's probably going to get 3 top prospects in return, maybe even an MLB-ready talent. And I would also say that he's expected to regress. The lack of velocity, the 2-pitch mix that he has, he started to throw a few more pitches in there just to keep guys on their toes, but we kind of saw this little dip in his game earlier on this year when he was kind of getting figured out by the league a little bit, and he had to make a really quick change. He did that. He did it very well. Dude's a smart guy, but when it comes to the lack of velocity in a game today where velocity is the number one thing, I can see there being some regression, and he's going to have to continue to figure out new ways to keep the league on their toes. Now, his age, you think 29 years old, yeah, that's not very old, but the thing is, he's already dealt with a few injuries. That hamstring in the beginning of the year, he had a few injuries last year as well. At the age of 29, you get to 30 years old, you start to wonder, is the body going to be able to continue to keep up the way that it has? Plus, pitchers these days have just been going down at a higher rate, so you worry about the age, you worry about the likelihood of more injuries, and you also worry about that next big contract because it's going to be big. When Justin Steele looks at signing an extension, whether it's this year, next year, or towards 2027, if he keeps pitching at the level that he is, low 3 ERA, maybe even mid 3 ERA, that's going to be a $20+ million per year contract. So the Cubs could avoid that right now and potentially replace him with someone that could be the next Justin Steele, but have longer team control. Plus, you do have a lot of starting pitching depth that could replace Steele in the next year or two. Cade Horton and Ben Brown are going to be starters likely next year. Ben Brown has already proven that he can be a starter in the majors. Cade Horton, we thought, was going to be up already. Of course, he's dealt with some back issues, but he'll likely be up. You expect to see a healthy Jordan Wicks next year. You expect to see Jameson Taillon potentially back if he doesn't get traded. Javier Assad has proven that he can start, and of course, Shota Imanaga. So there's about 5 or 6 options next year for your starting rotation, and that's not assuming that any other deals are made or no other prospects are called up. So there is some pitching depth to be able to replace that, assuming that everyone's healthy. Now let's look into some reasons that Justin Steele should not be traded, and the most obvious one is, of course, that he is the Cubs' ace. You could say that Shota Imanaga could easily slot into that spot and be the Cubs' ace, but he hasn't been around long enough to be able to say, like, yes, he's the ace. He's just gone through some really, really good stretches and has looked like a really, really good pitcher in basically just over half of a season. So not quite ready to put the ace title on Shota Imanaga. The next reason you don't want to trade him is really because of the leadership. I can't really tell exactly when it comes to Justin Steele if he's the leader that he appears to be, but now that he has a podcast and you hear him talk about the way that he loves this team and the way that he really kind of lashed out through love in Milwaukee and how the team responded, winning 8 of their next 11 games. There's something there that would be extremely missed if he's not there as a leader, especially you aren't hearing this year about leadership from Cody Bellinger and Dansby Swanson like you did last year, because they're not really producing at the plate this year. The next reason is that the team just really isn't that far off. I mean, if this was a league average team offensively, you'd be looking at a potentially even leading the NL Central right now, but at least in a wild card position, a comfortable wild card spot position. But because their offense has been so lackluster, they've been so bad this year, and it's been so contagious. There's so many guys that are underperforming. It's just that part of this team that is not there quite yet. So do you want to give away your ace when potentially next year some of these guys have bounce-back years, maybe 1 or 2 bats are brought in, and then you have that playoff contender, especially with some of the prospects coming up like Owen Casey and Matt Shaw? Can this team turn it around offensively next year? And then you wish you had that ace for next year. It also removes depth. I mean, we just talked about all the guys that are on this team that can potentially replace him. But what if you look at the starting rotation this year? A lot of guys have gone down. A lot of guys have been injured. And so if anyone gets injured next year and you start to see that coming up again and again, you're going to wish that you had another ace-like pitcher on your staff. And to me, getting rid of a fan favorite when this was supposed to be a year that the Cubs were supposed to be in the playoffs and compete, maybe not for a championship, but at least getting to the division series, it kind of sends the wrong message to the fans. Getting rid of a guy with 3 years of control, who's a fan favorite, that is an ace, that has been built up by this organization, was given really a second chance by this organization, and then suddenly he's just shipped off for the next round of prospects. It's that kind of ever-revolving, annoying, hey, are we going to keep on trying to be this mid-market team even though we're a big-market team, and trying to take on the Moneyball approach and get rid of any guy that's doing well because we can't figure out how to win? And that, to me, is probably the most annoying part of this. But there are reasons to be able to say to trade him. So, which is it for you? Make sure you comment down below on Justin Steele. Now let's take a look at Nico Hoerner. Reasons to trade Nico Hoerner. A lot like Justin Steele, you're expecting a decent return for decent value. Now, Justin Steele was high value, high return. I would say Nico is decent value, decent return. Yes, he's only owed $23.5 million, which for a guy with a gold glove and who has basically been at the top of the WAR leaders for the Cubs in the last 2 seasons, $23.5 million for the next 2 years is really not a lot of money. So I could see that contract being attractive, especially now that he's been going through a hot streak. You're getting him at a high value part of this season. And I would expect, maybe 1 or 2 of a team's top 30 prospects in return for Nico. He's not the impact bat, so that's why we would potentially want to trade him. The Cubs are looking for impact bats right now, and really, Nico is not the spark plug that we really all say he is. Everyone wants to say, when Nico goes, the Cubs go. I did some research. The Cubs are only 12-13 when Nico has a multi-hit game. 25 games, only 12 wins. And when he steals a base, which he was so good at last year, he's not doing it nearly as much this year. But even this year when he steals a base, the Cubs are only 7-5 when he steals a base. So he's not quite the spark plug and the quote-unquote impact bat or impact player from the offensive perspective that you might think he is, at least here in 2024. Now, this is all really hard for me to say because Nico is my favorite player, and he's that kind of hustler. He's that kind of great attitude that you want on your team. But with Matt Shaw coming up next year, that's the last reason that I would say it would be a good time to trade Nico. You could slot in maybe, now that the Cubs don't look like they're going for a playoff spot here in 24, you maybe move Morel to second, maybe move Michael Busch to second, although he has been incredible over at first base, surprisingly, this year. Mastrobuoni, you've got Bodie, you've got a lot of options there to be able to say there's replacements here in 2024. Now, reasons not to trade Nico, definitely number one, you're breaking up the Nico and Dansby double play combo. The great hair, the great gloves, everything about it that we were so excited when Dansby Swanson came in. It came to fruition in 2023. It's gotten a lot better here in the last couple months from those double play combos. It was not so good in the first month or two. It's gotten back to what we expected. And so it's going to be missed if that's something that is now gone. And then to me, it also, along that same lines, kind of changes the team and the organization philosophy. So much of this organization has been a defense, 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 and you get rid of a Gold Glover from last year and that double play combo, and suddenly it's like, wait, where is this organization heading? Are we actually still focused on defense, or is that more of a back burner? And so it kind of sends a mixed message organizationally to the fan base, in my opinion. The tangibles are obviously another thing. The glove, the speed, the contact, everything that he brings from those aspects. He doesn't bring the power. He doesn't bring a lot of slug. But this year as well, he's been doing a lot better with putting up solid at-bats, getting on base via the walk. He's been going deeper in counts, so those things have improved as well. And lastly, he's young. He's 27 years old. There's still a lot that can be unlocked there. I know the Cubs have talked about they think there's more power in there based on his size and everything. I think there is. But at this point, do you wait around for a guy who's young and potentially can unlock those things? Or do you just say, hey, let another team take over what could happen with Nico, and let's bring up a guy like a Matt Shaw who seems like he's got that high ceiling that could be reached almost immediately if possible? All right, once again, let me know in the comments, Nico and Justin Steele, do you want to trade them? Do you want to get rid of them? And if so, why? And make sure you are subscribed to our list at setupman.net. If you do those things and you have the best detailed answer, in my opinion, then I'm going to give you my Nico Hoerner signed baseball. And make sure to watch this next video that just popped up for you about Justin Steele, the new version of Justin Steele, and how he was able to adjust to the league before they adjusted to him.